Hello and welcome to the Shiny Bees podcast, a podcast for those who like their knitting, comedy and yarn in equally large measures. I'm your host, Jo Milmine, and this is episode 151, Going Local.
I feel a need to laugh again with you, if that's alright. I need a drink, I need a friend, I need your help, I want to smile again.
Hello and welcome to episode 151 of the Shiny Bees podcast. I'm Jo, I'm your host, and today is Tuesday the 14th of July 2020. How are you? I hope you've been well since last time I spoke to you. I say that every episode, don't I? Like I probably need a new catchphrasey opening gambit thing really, but I say the same thing every time. But how are you? And if you're a new listener, welcome. I hope you'll enjoy hanging out with us today. And if you're a returning listener, thank you as always for coming back and listening to me when someone is cutting flags outside the minute I turn the microphone on. So annoying. There's just no need. It's like a rule of podcasting. If you turn the microphone on, it can be like quiet, birds cheeping in the background, the whole thing. And then the minute you try and record anything, everyone starts doing the noisiest thing they can possibly find to do. Useful, including Sam building a railway in his bedroom. Like, jabbering away to himself. He is like Topham Hatt in there, giving it what for. But anyway, we are here. We're back again. And a little bit of an unscheduled podcast break due to accidentally leaving my laptop out in the rain. I know. I was doing yoga with my friend Kate from way back in the podcast, and we were outside doing yoga and I closed the laptop, and I'm always really careful normally, and for some reason I closed the lid and I left it on the chair, and it was so hot we couldn't do yoga inside. That's why we were outside, and it poured down when I went for the curry and the laptop was still outside and it got really wet. And then I took it to someone to fix it who had been known colloquially as Magic Mike, and he's about the most unmagic person ever. It's just been a massive disappointment. I'm actually renaming Massive Disappointment Mike, who's done nothing to my laptop, lost 4 of the screws, lied about the work he's done, and I'm convinced just wants to be in an argument. Like, I think that's his thing, is just to argue about stuff. He's just an absolute muppet. Muppet Mike, we will know him as from now on. So that's been a bit of a disappointment because obviously there was no availability at the Apple stores to get it fixed because we've all been on lockdown. It was just one of those nightmare things. And I did kind of take it to be a sign that I probably need to just, tip my foot off the gas a little bit, because I'm not a person that is clumsy, that makes silly errors like that really. It's just not something that I normally do. So it's an indicator that I'm probably caning it a little bit. So I took a couple of weeks. The laptop is still broken. I took it to a lovely guy, Dave, the legend. Daves are always legends, aren't they? And he replaced all the screws for me and checked it over, because I didn't trust Muppet Mike, basically, after the shenanigans that went on, to have not broken it. And it turns out I was right not to trust Muppet Mike, because he'd sheared off some of the screws inside the laptop, and that's why it wasn't progressing, or he was making excuses. Anyway, go with peace and love, Muppet Mike. You are out of my life, and Dave the Legend is back in. But Dave the Legend hasn't fixed my computer for me completely. It still needs to go to Apple, basically, and to be looked at by them. It's a more cost-effective Apple way of doing it. So I've had no laptop. It's been really weird, because obviously I do all of my work on my laptop, and the podcast and everything else. So it's been a little bit weird, really. But the good upshot of that is that I've properly, after a couple of days of just staring into space, not knowing what to do with myself, and a couple of days of absolutely kicking the arse out of using my phone to try and do work, I just chilled and started knitting again, basically. Which is good. So I've made some progress on my compass sweater, and I've been looking at some ideas for designs as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Otherwise, how are you getting on with like lockdown or not lockdown? Are we even in lockdown anymore? What's going on? Does anybody know what's happening? I feel like they made a raft of announcements with a load of dates and then just stopped doing press conferences. I've no idea what's happening anymore. Yeah, weird. I know I can go to the Indian and go and sit in the Indian for my curry with my Indian fam, and I'm holding off. I'm waiting till Millie gets back basically to crack the seal on that bad boy. But otherwise, I've not a clue what's happening. Literally not a clue what's going on outside, which is good, really. And yeah, it's now the end of the week is the end of term for everyone. So hopefully if you've been trying to homeschool and do all that kind of good stuff, you know, the light is at the end of the tunnel there, isn't it? Or a little bit. I don't know, it feels like the light sometimes just gets further and further away in many respects. But yeah, we've made it this far, guys, halfway through July. I don't know what happened to the first half of Mad Dog 2020, but we're still here. Still here. I never thought I would survive for this many months on my own, locked up with the children. Like I struggle to do a weekend normally because it's just so miserable. Just so miserable being on your own with them. So yeah, we're doing it. We're living. We're loving life. And so in the 2 weeks that I've been not podcasting, I don't know if it wasn't planned this way. It just so happened that I also had someone in to paint some walls and repair some paintwork and stuff on the banisters and everything. Because being locked up in the house for so long really stressed me out. Like I could see every single problem that is wrong with the place. So I made a big list and started working through it to get it fixed. And I've had a guy in to decorate. Top lad, unlike Muppet Mike. Jay's good. He's really good, really pleased with him. He's done a cracking job and he had the best playlist ever, so you'd just hear him singing away into his 90s tunes in the background. It was really good. It was a good laugh. So he's painted my office. So even though my kind of replacement machine arrived, I wasn't in the office because he was busy painting it. I've had it painted Stiff Key Blue, which is a Farrow and Ball colour. Now, I did not buy Farrow and Ball paint because it's the spare room and it's 50 quid for 2.5 litres. I got it colour matched at Valspar and got 5 litres for 46 quid. And it looks belting. I'm dead pleased with it. If you're not familiar with the ins and outs of the Farrow and Ball paint jar, and let's face it, why would you be necessarily? Because it's not, it's not knitting wool. Although it probably should be. It's a proper nice colour. It's a dark navy blue. But it's not I'm looking at the wall now, so if the sound goes a bit weird, it's because I'm now staring at the wall. It's not petrol blue either. It changes colour depending on which way the light bounces on it. It's really beautiful. Love it. Quite dramatic. A world away from the almond white Dulux that it was before that just made me want to die inside. It was not an inspirational colour. So that's painted, and I've been looking at how to style everything really, because it's a dark colour. So now my reproduction ladies writing desk that I record on with it's a brown wood desk with a green leatherette maybe insert with the gold kind of filigree on it, and like the little handles. I've got that, and I've got a green bank lamp. Do you know the bank lamps? It's like a brass bottom and then it's got a green shade, and it's the ones they used to have in old banks So it's looking a little bit Edwardian Gentleman's Club at the moment, I have to say. And I've also ordered another set of drawers to match the ones in our bedroom. That's a bit more kind of chilled and countrified. It's definitely not Edwardian Gentleman's Club. So I'm sort of agonising over how to style the room now. I am not a flat lay person. This about me. I think flat lay is faff. I'm not about styling like the knitwear and the wool and everything. Can't really be arsed with Instagram. I think it's a bit of a pain in the arse. But interiors, no, that is where I will faff. I will not faff with flowers. I will not faff with ordering a little sheet so that you can style all of your knitting on this background and it all looks nice. I'm not down with that. I am massively down with interiors. I'm like Ideal Home, love it, massively into it. So like I've been thinking about all of this. Is it going to be the Edwardian Gentleman's Club, or is it going to be something a little bit softer? And I can't quite decide, because the inner me, the not so inner me, thinks Edwardian Gentleman's Club. I love like Scots baronial architecture, Victoriana. Like I'm massively into all of that. But it doesn't match this chest of drawers, and I've got nowhere to put that chest of drawers, and we need that chest of drawers. So yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've been looking for some prints to put up on the wall, because I had a lot of other prints up before, but they don't quite kind of go with the look that I'm going for. And I've ordered new bedding. And I've also been looking at, and it's something I've done with the knitting before as well, but kind of come into the interiors as well now. Like all of my choices really are leaning this way. And I don't know if any of you have had this over lockdown, where yes, we all, as I've mentioned, you know, you get to the point where you question life itself. But I've also been looking at things like supply chains. I've shared quite a few things that have come via my friend Kate Hills at Make It British. On Instagram, I've been sharing some stuff about Labour Behind the Label, which is basically like a campaign group for better working conditions in factories in the UK, in particular in Leicester. There's been a big hoo-ha about COVID outbreaks and people being forced to go to work when they're actually sick in the factories in Leicester that are supplying people like Boohoo, ASOS. Your fast fashion made in the UK, fast fashion is actually being produced in conditions that are not very healthy, bad ventilation, poor pay, below minimum wage pay for people who have, you know, got unstable kind of employment prospects and all that kind of stuff. And not that I buy from ASOS or Boohoo anyway, because I don't. Same with Primark. I just believe that if something is too cheap, then somebody has paid for it down the line. Like there is a cost, there's a price for everything. And if I'm not paying for it as the end consumer, someone has paid for it somewhere down the line. Whether it's like animals, people, environment, someone's paid for it somewhere down the line. That's just how it works. You can't have something for nothing. I don't believe you can, right? So I've been looking at that, and I've been pretty like annoyed at that whole thing, because I just think that shouldn't be happening in the UK in 2020. We should not have those kinds of conditions, and the retailers are to blame. They're the ones who are driving down prices, and the more we buy cheap stuff like that, the more it encourages them to do it. So and I'm not knocking anyone that needs to buy cheaper clothing or needs to use those sorts of retailers because they've got no choices, because you know, you make your choices based on where you are and what's important to you. But I don't need to buy from them, and I don't want to either. So I've been doing a lot of like looking at that from a kind of fashion point of view, and sharing some stuff on that. And I'll put links to these in the show notes for you, so you can go take a look at them afterwards if it's something you're interested in. But also been thinking about it from an interiors point of view, because like we find in the knitting world, where something's labelled as being made in the UK, and actually the only thing that's happened in the UK is that a ball band's been put on the yarn in the UK, and we're being given the impression that it's a British product, or a UK-made product, as I prefer to call it, because the word British sort of attracts the wrong types of people these days, unfortunately. You know, we're being conned and we're being misled into making purchasing decisions because of marketing, and that's wrong. You know, we should have clear labelling, and we should know the provenance of where things have come from. And then we can make an informed decision. And I talked about this a lot with Joy McMillan in an earlier episode. I don't have the number on me. I will put a link in the show notes, but she talked about British wool and moving all of her sourcing of her base yarns to Britain, and a lot about, you know, quality and the effects of the environment and all that kind of stuff in that episode. And I'll link to that. It was a great episode. I loved that one in particular, because she's really interesting to talk to, and I've been a big fan of Joy's work for a long time. So there's loads of information in that, but also I've been looking at not just my knitting choices, and I do like to choose wool where I know where it's come from, or yarn where I know where it's come from, who's dyed it, who's spun it, what the supply chain is. And it's a bit easier for us when we make our own clothing and make our own items from that. Then we can know a bit more about where it's come from. We've got a lot greater visibility of the supply chain. But we know the supply chain lies. Like, we know it's not, I'm not cutting, any mustard here. They lie. Marketing lies. You have to do the research. And they lie and they mislead. They lie and they mislead. Both as bad as one another, in my opinion, but they lie and they mislead. So like an example, I bought a cupboard this week from Cotswold Company for my downstairs toilet because I'm not rock and roll. I need a cupboard for my bleach. And, the branding, everything suggests it's a British company. And they even go as far as to write on designed in the UK on the box. What really annoys me is they then put made in PRC on the box. Now, I know what PRC means because I've lived there. But a lot of people that I've spoken to, I said, do you know what PRC means? Do you know what country PRC is? And they say no. People's Republic of China. Right, so it's made in China. And there's nowhere on the website where it says that. And it annoys me because I'm trying to make these good decisions and I'm trying to buy more expensive products and I'm trying to buy, because I believe a more expensive product means that it's been produced in a way that is equitable for everyone and it's not going to be trashing the environment. But then they're like hiding it. Don't hide it. It's annoying. Just stop. And it's not like an anti-China thing. It's an anti, like, the way things have gone thing for me. I'm just like, all of our supply chains are on the backsides because we're bringing stuff from halfway around the world. We shouldn't be doing that. Like, we should not be doing that, in my opinion. It's bad for the environment. It's not sustainable. And I think, it should be coming from local. That's why the title of this episode is like going local. And so now I'm looking at how can I do that with the choices I make with my interiors now. Because now I'm not going to go get, the cheapest things that I can get out of Argos that have been made overseas somewhere, because I don't have to do that. I don't want to do that. I'd rather not have than do that. So, I'm then going looking at places like John Lewis that I know they make quilts. They make quilts in Lancashire. They actually make them down the road from me. And that's cool, right? Because that means people around here have got jobs and they do check their supply chains and make sure that they're, equitable and people are being looked after and paid properly and all of that kind of stuff. So I've been talking to my friend Kate at Make It British, and we've got kind of hatching a plan for her to come on and chat some more on this podcast about the wool industry. She's like amazing. She's got this encyclopedic knowledge of British manufacturing, particularly fashion and homewares and textiles, because that's her background. But she can tell you someone who can make anything. She knows the tinsel making factory in Wales, like everything. She knows them personally. She knows which are the dodgy ones, which are the non-dodgy ones. She's visited the factories. And she knows, a lot of the people, the names that we're kind of familiar with, like your Laxtons and people like that. So I really wanted to get her on to come chat about some of this stuff, because obviously I'm a UK-based podcast and I appreciate there are listeners all over the world. In fact, we're pretty big in South Africa this week. Hello, my South Africa friends. It is a global podcast, but I'm based here. So, I'm going to talk about the things that I'm doing here in the hope that it inspires other people to do similar things where you are, basically. So you can, think about these things and what to start looking for with this stuff. So yeah, all that is to say that I've been working on interior stuff. I'm actually considering starting an Instagram account that I give a monkeys about. I'm in two minds, right? Because I really want an interiors account because there's just so many like little pretty corners of my house that I could take pictures of. Because I love interiors. I love looking at other people's houses. Like at Rightmove, I am like the biggest Rightmove porn addict ever. I love Rightmove, looking at what people do with their houses. That's like my hobby. Rightmove's my hobby, other than knitting. And I'm actually considering doing it. But, oh my word, has anyone noticed the ad targeting at the moment? You're all right if all you're clicking on is knitting stuff, because not that many people are doing adverts, like knitting adverts on. It's like your We Are Knitters, Wool and the Gang, Stitch and Story, blah. They're your wool adverts, right? Your yarn adverts. I clicked on one print shop, like, that you go buy a print for your house or whatever. And I'm getting hammered. Every print shop going is advertising to me now. I'm just like, oh, go away. Just stop following me, Instagram. Stop following me. Stop it. It's why I don't want to be on there. You know what I mean? Stop it. So yeah, anyway, I'll let you know if I do start that. I think it'd be called like Banish the Beige or, you know, whatever. It'd be something about, because my house is a new build. I wouldn't have ever bought a new build normally because we were moving abroad. And they still break just as much as an old house does, despite what you think. They still need tons of work. But yeah, everything was beige when we moved in. Everything was beige. It's just really uninspiring, just a beige box, basically. Oops. So like I'm on some kind of mission to like kill developer beige. Developer beige should be banned. Kelly Hoppen is a swear word in this house. I don't believe in neutrals that are a beige colour. Like I don't want to decorate my house 15 different shades of ready brick. Like porridge is not a shade. Neither's elephant's breath, Farrow and Ball. Good grief. Anyway, on one completely. I will talk more about the interiors choices and Make It British and wool and everything later, because I've obviously been looking for some nice wool throws and all that kind of stuff. So if I find any good suppliers, I will be sharing those with you. So 20 minutes in, not really quite got to the knitting yet, but we are going to. So it's going to be a quick update of where I am with my knitting stuff. And that'll be it, basically. So seeing as we're already 20 minutes in and I've not done the sting, we're just going to carry on without any little musical interludes and smash straight into the knitting. So as I said, someone's enjoying his railway in the background. Someone's blowing up his railway in the background, it sounds like. But I've got to keep going before that maniac comes back out with his angle grinder and those flags. So I've been back in my knitting, as I said, and I went back to working on my compass sweater. Completely unprompted. I think sometimes the more you try and force something, the more it becomes a big thing and the less you want to do it. And because I've just left it, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm working on my Snorheed hat instead. That's okay. I'm happy with this. I'll just work on this. This is, it should be quite quick. I can be nearly done soon. I'm like halfway through it now. And I ended up picking, again, it was like a really weird time. Normally I need to have a bit of a run up when it comes to testing like the length of things. The cable that my knitting was on wasn't quite long enough for me to try it on. So it needed putting on a longer cable, which isn't a big job like in and of itself, but in my head it was a big job. And I randomly decided when I was halfway through making a Rooibos that I was going to just put it on this other cable and test it. So I did. And it wasn't that bad. Like I actually had it on the other cable by the time the flipping tea was ready. It's just one of those things where you think it's a big thing, but it's really not. And tested it and cast off the bottom of that. So I'm now on the sleeves. Can you believe it? So it is really super nearly done now. And I'm really looking forward to wearing it. It feels like it's going to be super cozy. The yoke is a little bit, I think I've done it a bit tight, to be honest. Or maybe it's just because there's so much colour work on it. It just feels a little bit like a suit of armour. But obviously I've not washed it yet or anything. So, and I knitted the yoke inside out as well and loosely, so it shouldn't be like solid or anything when it's washed and blocked. But it just feels a little bit like that at the moment. And I'm doing it in Excelana DK, as I mentioned before, which is a Susan Crawford vintage yarn, which is a UK yarn. And Susan's farm is literally like half an hour up the road. So tick VG for the localism there for me. And yeah, it's going really well. I've been inspired basically by this newfound adoption of the knitting, and I've even been watching some Netflix. I've not watched Netflix since Tiger King finished. I don't watch TV. I'm not, it's not like I'm anti-technology or anything. There's just nothing I can be bothered to get into. I just, I'm always like thinking or doing or researching or something else. Like I'm not a person just to sit there and veg watching telly at night. I rarely have time anyway by the time the kids are in bed and everything else. So it's not something I really do. But I started watching, like, again, interiors programs. I've been watching this one called Stay Here. They go and pimp up these Airbnbs that are dreadful, and then they interior design them and redo the marketing and everything. I've been watching that. while I've been doing this knitting. So it's felt quite indulgent, to be honest, in terms of like, I don't watch Netflix and I don't get much chance to sit and knit, but I have been doing that. So because I've been so into it, I've been thinking about what I could knit next, because I'm going to be done with that soon. And I've got a few plans. Like I have some projects lined up, but I thought I'd go and check if Ravelry had sorted their lives out yet and log in. And I've noticed that they've not quite sorted their lives out. I don't know what they're doing with that website, but they're annoying everyone while they're doing it. I have got some sort of plan for how I'm going to approach dealing with that, to be honest with you. I hoped by now, like a couple more weeks later, that there might be some more positive progress in terms of that, but I'm just not really seeing that happen, to be honest. So yeah, I'm looking at a few things, a few ideas. I will get back to you on that next week, because there's a lot that needs thinking about how to get around it, as I talked about last time. So for now, I'm going to warn you when I'm sending you to a link on Ravelry, and anyone that has links off Ravelry, I will be linking to those rather than the Ravelry link. So if you've got your own designer website and I've got a link, I will be from now on linking directly to your site or your PayHip or whatever else you're using to deliver your products, and I will not link to the Ravelry site. But I may go on to Ravelry to research things, because that is I'm just not going to find stuff otherwise. Unless I spend hours and hours on it. It does make me feel a little bit weird that I can't have the new version on, and even the old version is still it burns your retinas a little bit. They've definitely done something with the contrast on there. Like, don't give me that. So yeah, I will come back to you on that. So I've been having a bit of a look. Now I found 8-bit Geek Along. Right, it looks like quite good fun. I'm clearly like, I don't know what's going on with me right now, because I'm actually considering joining in with a knit along, a mystery knit along, at the same time everyone else is doing it. I mean, who am I? That's just not what I do. It's following the crowd. No, Joe. But yeah, I'm considering it, because I was looking at fan art for, well, I wasn't looking at fan art. When I was looking at the art for the spare room, I found some Zelda ones. I love Zelda. And this really cool, like futuristic, but 80s neon-y print. And I was like, oh, I really like that. And I've also, whilst digging around in the spare room, found a load of cotton. I don't know what I was thinking, like cotton to knit a blanket. And I was going to do a load of squares that were like Zelda and Mario and Sonic themed. They're actually dishcloth patterns, but I thought, well, dishcloth, that's a square. Afghan squares, they're squares. That's no difference. I'll just do them on a tighter gauge and jobs are good in. Anyway, I'm very clearly not going to knit it in cotton. That's just foolish. It was a silly idea when I didn't know anything about knitting, and how much cotton hurts your hands if you're going to knit an entire blanket out of it. So I've just got a bit captured by this idea, because it's a jumper. So it's a Geek Along, but a jumper. Now, the Geek Alongs have been going on since 2013 and have been like Afghans and blankets for all sorts of other patterns that I never knew about before. I don't know how I've kind of missed this whole thing, but I clearly have. And just spotted it when I was having a mooch around on Ravelry. I was on Ravelry today, and found it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get involved. It's got a little Mario star on there. That's the swatch. So there's obviously like a Mario star, something to do with the pattern. Quite excited about that. So I'm going to get involved, I think. I know, I'm quite surprised, not nervous, but just a bit like, Joe, what you want? It starts on the 2nd of August. That's when the first clue drops. But the swatch is available now. It's free. It's a free mystery knit along. But the only place I've found where the pattern is on Ravelry, I'm afraid. There's some talk about it on the website from the designer. The designer is Lattes and Llamas. It's Megan Ann Lama who's designed it. She does have her own website. I will link to her website in the show notes, and I will link to the Ravelry project in the show notes. But be aware, obviously, it is a Ravelry link. So if you've got any problems with that, come ask me. I'll help you. Or let me know if there's anything I can do to get stuff off there if you can't get to it yourself and you need it. And yeah, quite excited. I might well do it. It's a sport weight jumper. It could be really cool. But then I started looking through her back catalogue as well, and it turns out she's also an indie dyer. But she's done some awesome colourwork stuff as well, including the Queen Bee pullover, which I feel like I need. If I'm going to be shiny bees, like I need a shiny bee Queen Bee pullover. Do you not think I need a Queen Bee pullover? I think I need one. It looks really cool. That pattern is $6, and there's also some Queen Bee socks as well. So I can totally see those in my future. Again, only on Ravelry. But hopefully they might be available on her website at some point soon. So yeah, go check all of those out. The other thing I've been considering is some of Susan's patterns, Susan Crawford. She's got a new website at the moment, brand new, that's just been launched, I think last weekend it might have been. And it looks awesome. I've just been knitting with her yarn, and I've been talking about some of her patterns from the Evolution collection. I'm planning on knitting Orchidaceae from Evolution with my Nurturing Fibres. Well, I've talked about that in the last couple of episodes, but I've also been like revisiting some of the more vintage stuff. Now, I'm not a massively vintage person. When I was into more vintage, I was definitely into more like 70s type stuff, but I've been thinking, not sure if it is the mini related midlife crisis, although I'm definitely not midlife. I'm only 37. I will not be dying at 74. But I've been thinking about, I used to spend a lot of time wearing vintage clothes, vintage knits, a lot of V-neck jumpers, like V-neck, not jumpers, what do you call them? Tank tops. Tank tops was my thing. And I feel like I just need to re-embrace the tank top a little, because think about the amazing custom tank tops I can now make, because now I'm like a proper knitter again. I can make these amazing custom tank tops. I'm going to be so cool. I'm going to be driving my Mini. Like, I'm going to be young again and vibrant and all of the things, right? Yeah. So excited. So I've been looking at some of, her patterns for that really. There's a couple that I really like. The Jan sweater is awesome. That's like it's got the V eyelet patterns on it. It looks quite 70s. It's not 70s because the book that it's from, I think, only goes up to 1959 from memory. Might be 69. But I think it is from not Vintage Shetland, A Stitch in Time Volume 2. And it's a wide boat neck with a ribbed waist and kind of cropped, a little bit cropped, not too cropped, because I don't like anything too cropped because I'm only 5'2". So like anything too cropped makes me look a little bit ridiculous. And it's also got elbow length sleeves, same front and back. And then it's got like an eyelet pattern that makes it into V's. It looks quite 70s, even though it's not. I really like it. So I've been wanting to do one of those for ages. And there's also the Sunray ribbing pattern, which is this super cool, like really vintagey, but something you could definitely style and dress to be of today. That apparently was on the Great British Sewing Bee recently. So I've not even been watching Sewing Bee, can you believe it? That's how little telly I watch. But it was on there. And that is really cool. Like, I really love the styling that she's used for all of the Stitch in Time stuff. Some of it, like I wouldn't make because I'm not that vintage. But some of it I could definitely get into my new Mini drive-in. Super cool. Blonde streaks. I've got blonde streaks in my hair, guys. Literally after having red or dark brown hair for 16 years. 2004 I changed it. Embracing the blonde again. Like I'm going full on. Like what can I say? I don't even care. I'm not even sorry. I'm just going to embrace all of that. So some cool patterns to look at there. What I might do in the next episode is pull out a few of my favourites that I think are quite versatile in terms of not too slavishly vintage. But if you love the vintage looks, like she's got some awesome patterns for that. She's so cool. So you'll find all of her stuff at SusanCrawfordVintage.com. Got vintage on the brain. I need a trip to Affleck's Palace and Pop Cafe, and I need to start wearing cords again that sweep in the Manchester gutters and carry all the rain. I've already got some Adidas campers. I'm back wearing campus trainers. It's been a gradual process. It's not just a lockdown thing, but I'm properly re-embracing younger, more vibrant and exciting Jo. So yeah, anyway, that's all I have for you this week. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you want links to any of the things I've mentioned, you will find all of those in the show notes. That will be at shinybees.com/151 for this episode, and any other episode. It's always shinybees.com/the episode number if you need the show notes for that. So I hope you'll have a lovely week. Happy crafting, and I will speak to you all again soon. Cheers. You've been listening to the Shiny Bees podcast. Show notes for this episode are at shinybees.com/151. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a positive review on iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcatcher of choice. And if you'd like to contact me, I am info@shinybees.com or @shinybees on all social media. Thanks for listening.
I need a drink. I need a friend.